Oh, if you're a real estate agent and you've been looking for opportunities to take your business to the next level, especially start the year out with a bang, this is the best information I've seen in a long time. I got my buddy David Childers with me. We're going to go through and we're going to talk about exactly what you can do right now with the data he's going to provide to get your year kicked off in a big way. All right, David, this is some of the best stuff that I have seen in a long time. Listen, when you first told me this, we were sitting there when you got this data to us, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is something agents can absolutely take action on immediately, and they can use it for the rest of the time. We're going to be talking about expired listings and the opportunity that's growing right now. David, I'm going to just turn it over to you now, if that's okay, and let you just kind of take us through some of this data.
Yeah, Jimmy, this is, I believe this will be the biggest opportunity in the next 30, 45 days for sure, but ongoing. And you and I were talking about that a little bit before we got started. And I want you to talk about that as well, as how an agent can go back and look at things that have expired in the past and sort of see that opportunity. But here's why I believe it'll be a big, sort of chance on the first month of the year to go out and talk to people that are interested, excited about selling their home, but didn't, and the listing was expired, withdrawn, whatever the case is. Okay. Now, before we hop into it, I want to say one thing. Curtis Finn over at RedX, phenomenal job. Their team got us at Keeping Current Matters all this data. If you're not using RedX, go check them out. Jimmy will link that in there.
Yes.
But huge shout out to them. But here's why this is such a big opportunity. And I think I can say this, Jimmy, in most markets, you talk to a lot of agents out there. Days on market, right, is growing, right? It's taking longer to sell things these days. Inventory, by and large, around the country is growing. And the velocity of sales has come down this year. And I'm not saying anything that everybody listening doesn't already know, right? It's sort of a statement of the fact. But when you start to see that appear, that points directly to listings that expire, right? Somebody that said, hey, we want to move, we want to sell our house for one reason or another, and it didn't happen. Now, I'm gonna give you something, and I'm gonna wait till the end to tell you this, because I want people watching and I want you to think about this, Jimmy. When we were going through all this data, RedX, I did a call with them, their data scientists, and they took, so they have a call platform. They took all the calls that they had that agents had with expired listings, and they've used an AI tool, and they've distilled it down to the number one emotion that sellers feel when their listing expires or the home doesn't sell. Now, Jimmy, I'm going to put that in your head for a second, because at the end, I'm going to ask you what you think it is. And I haven't even told you this yet.
No, you haven't.
But it'll blow you away. Okay. So if we can understand the emotion they feel, we can look at what the data says. Oh my gosh, the road starts to appear, and you go, okay, this is going to be a huge opportunity. So I'm going to share my slides like I do always when we're together, Jimmy. And I want to show you what we asked them. And here's what we did is we said, let's look at the first week of this year of 2024. So the first week of January, and say what expired. And then how can we use all of that data to sort of predict what we believe will happen in the first week of 2025. Okay. So stay with me on this. I'm going to share my slides here, and we'll get going. So that gray bar there on the left, the first week of this year, 2024, a little over 129,000 listings expired. RedX gave me sort of two forecasts for 25, low end, high end, somewhere between 135,000 and almost 150,000 listings are anticipated to expire the first week of January. Now, you can go get all of that for your local market and find out what's going on. But it is safe to say we'll see more expired listings the first week of 2025 than we've seen in, I don't know how long, Jimmy. I mean,
I agree.
Last decade.
I agree.
Okay. Right. Because stuff's been selling. This is a big deal right now. So what we did is we started to break this down and say, okay, what happened this year that can inform our thinking this year, I mean, this coming year, so that you can sit down with an expired listing and say, hey, here's what happens. And Jimmy, you certainly interrupt me as we go through this if there's a point you want to make. But the bottom line is sales volume on expireds is going to go up. It was about 12 billion this year, north of like 12 to 14 billion in the coming year, in the next few weeks, when all this happens. So when we start to break it down, half of those expireds went and relisted. Half of them, you see it there, 49, 51, didn't relist. Now this, I'll kind of point this out because you and I were talking about it.
Yeah.
This is what happened when they were listed, expired, withdrawn. About half of them have relisted so far this year, the green text right there. Okay, so we know the split is about 50-50. And this is the point where you were talking about, hey, there's a gold mine, and even going back in the past and looking at folks that didn't relist.
Absolutely. No, I would say this is, we've talked about going back 6 to 18 months. Well, if you want to get really specific, because the emotions of the first week of the year are going to be the same for a lot of people. And from that standpoint, they're thinking about what they're going to do that year. If you go back to look at the expired listings in your MLS from the first week of January of 2024, this stat is stating nationwide that almost half of those 63,000 homes did not relist this past year. Yeah. So that creates a huge opportunity to go back, because there's not as much competition on those listings. Just calling and checking in and just saying, hey, I saw this time last year your home expired. Doesn't look like you sold it or you relisted it this past year. Just curious what your plans are.
Yeah.
And then just
what
be quiet.
Too, right?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Yeah, no, this is great. Please keep going, because this is good stuff coming up right here too.
Yeah. So half relisted, half didn't. Now here's where it gets interesting, Jimmy. This is what, if you're going to sit down with an expired, some stuff you want to start talking about. Of those that relisted, 1 in 3 relisted with a new agent, a different agent. Okay. Right. You see that right there. That's the sort of yellowish portion of the pie chart. Okay. So all of those that ended up relisting, about a third of them did it with a new agent, 2/3 with the same agent. Regardless of that, the thing that's most important is having an honest conversation with the seller about why the home didn't sell, right? And 1 out of 3 times somebody came in and said, we think we have a better shot at selling it, and they got the listing. Okay.
Right.
Now here's where it gets interesting. Of the relisted homes, most of them have sold. 58% sold, 42% haven't sold. Now, here's where it's really interesting. Of those that sold, the green box right there, 71% of them were sold after relisting with the new agent versus the same agent.
Can I speak to this a little bit, David?
Go ahead. There's a better probability right there.
No, and there's 2 things. First off, if you have listings expiring, because a lot of us set them up where they just expire at the first of the year. If you have listings that are expiring and you're seeing this before that week gets there, have that communication with your seller. Hey, if we're going to relist, it would make sense for us to go ahead and do that now, because if it expires, you're going to receive phone calls. You're going to be, you're going to have a ton of people calling you. You're going to have all of those things. If we're going to get ahead of this so your seller doesn't get these calls. Yeah. If you're an agent that is looking to generate listings from expired listings, this stat right here, this is the slide right here, and this next one that are absolutely going to give you an understanding of how to communicate this. So in other words, the person who relist, in this case, if we take the 51.7 versus 71, again, roughly with with my Walton County education, that's going to be about a 40% better chance of getting the home sold, those that relisted with a new agent versus relisting with their previous agent. So in other words, if you're an agent and you're communicating this, if you want different results, you have to do different things. And this is the statistics. This is the statistic that shows that in blue and gray right here. So
completely.
Does this make sense, David, though? The communication is key in this.
Yeah, for sure. Knowing what you're going to say before you say it, or anticipating something before the seller has to deal with it is the biggest lesson here, right? Having an honest conversation about price, having an honest conversation about why the home didn't sell, and where you're at. I mean, all this points to, Jimmy, is being the local expert. That's what it does. Okay.
Yes.
So let's kind of walk back again. 1 in 3 listed with a new agent. 2 out of 3 kept the same agent. Those that relisted with a new agent had a higher probability of selling the home. Okay. So let's keep on this line. Yeah. Most sellers relisted at a lower price. 62.5% relisted at a lower price. That's not rocket science. Okay.
Yeah.
Most people go, okay, I get that. 17% relisted at a higher price. Okay. And 20%, 1 out of 5 roughly, kept the price the same. Pretty interesting. Okay. So the majority went down, few of them went up, and some of them stayed the same. Now, here's where it gets really, really interesting. Of the relisted homes, most of them sold at a lower price.
Right.
Okay. Again, that's not going to be shocking to anybody listening. 80% sold at a lower price, but here's where it's interesting. 14% sold at a higher price, and only 4.9, call it 5%, sold at the same price.
Correct.
So the bottom line here is the last thing you want to do, and I'm going to pull these down real quick. The last thing you want to do is keep the price the same.
That's it.
Probability of selling.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I think, Jimmy, I think being able to sit down with somebody and go through these slides and show somebody this is what happens. What do you want to do? Because I'm going to ask you that question in just a minute. The number one emotion that a seller feels out of all of this distilled data when their home doesn't sell. And it's important. Where's your mind on that? Have you thought about it?
Yeah, I have thought about it. Let me mention one thing before I give my expectation on that. I would say that these slides that David just showed, first off, man, if you're not, go to trykcm.com and use these slides. If you want these slides, we'll have a link down below where you can get these, obviously, especially those, if that's okay, David.
Yeah.
And what we do is these you can use anytime into the future. These are so I don't care whether you're seeing this in May or whether you're utilizing these slides in July. These are the numbers based on where everything was in 2024, and it continues. Relisting at a lower price gives you a higher percentage chance of getting the home sold. Relisting at the same price really narrows it. So again, the communication on this and utilizing these slides to have a professional conversation in a way that it's not just you. That's one thing. Most people, you can show, it's one thing to tell people, but when you show them the hard numbers, and kudos to Curtis and his crew over at RedX. This is such good
phenomenal
information.
Job on this. Phenomenal.
Yeah, this is such good information, and this is going to help agents be able to communicate in a way that gets them more business. So I just let me switch back to the emotion because I'm really anxious to hear what.
Yeah.
I would say the emotion would be frustration.
Okay.
They're frustrated it didn't sell. They're getting a lot of calls, those types of things. But now what is the actual? Because I know it's probably different.
It's different. But I think frustration's in there, right? Nobody's going to list their home for sale and not sell it and not be frustrated. But the overwhelming top of the heap emotion that people feel, and listen to this, is embarrassment. I'm embarrassed, right? I told everybody we were going to sell the house. We got plans, and now it didn't sell. What's that mean about my house? What's that mean about whatever? They feel embarrassed. Right. And here's why I bring that up. If you can understand where somebody is at, and Jimmy, one of the hardest things in life to do, regardless of we're in a real estate transaction or with a friend or whatever, is meet somebody where they're at. And be able to meet them where they're at and say, hey, look, let's have an honest conversation about why this home didn't sell. And if you have a listing right now, I'm talking to agents that have this listing.
That's good.
If you don't have that honest conversation, there's somebody right behind you ready to have it, and they have nothing to lose.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. They have nothing to lose to have an honest conversation and talk to these folks about why the home didn't sell and what you're going to do in the coming months and in the year to sell the house. And I think, listen, I think this is, I want to say this too. I think this is the opportunity starting off 2025 to give a lot of folks the momentum they need to start the year.
Yes.
How you start the year will determine your trajectory going into the spring market. Will determine your trajectory going throughout the year. And so I'll leave you with that. I think there's a tremendous opportunity. Curtis and his team did a phenomenal job in pulling this together, and glad to be, with you as always to talk about it.
Absolutely. Let me echo what you said. Momentum is everything. especially as we head into 2025. You're going to receive and you're going to see more of what you look for and what you're anticipating as you search for it. So here's the thing I would encourage you to do. This is a very actionable step. It has a window here, especially now. As you get through the first window, look back at those at the first of last year that didn't relist. Do the little extra homework, or have someone that's an assistant for you to do the homework to see if something's sold. Have those conversations. Expired listings, in my opinion, are going to be the biggest opportunity in 2025 for agents to accelerate the growth of their business and especially build momentum in the first quarter. There's nothing else that even comes close, in my opinion. So, David, first off, thanks to Curtis and his crew, but thank you to your crew for putting this in a way that agents can share it and show the value in a way that I know is going to generate business. Listen, as we go into the rest of this year, guys, trykcm.com. Make sure you check it out. Also, make sure that you're doing everything you can to be that agent that has the professional opinion, that is excited about the business, and that is the person who is offering solutions where others have been really in a situation where they couldn't get things done. By doing that, you'll absolutely win. Hope this has been helpful. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching the video. I specifically chose the video below for you because it builds on the one you just watched. I hope it's helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.